You know, a few years ago, there was a big passage in time of my life where I got into a number of car accidents. Really, from when I first got my license at about the age of 17 to about the age of 21. So I haven't had one for years, 5 or 6 years, but there was this passage of time where I was just a reckless driver. I wasn't like a hoon, but I just was having a bad run of luck. And I've shared this before, and you may have heard this, but I had maybe 5 or 6 different car accidents in that 4 years. I wrote one car off. I was at fault in most of the other accidents as well. Sometimes I didn't even have insurance. And so what happened over this 4 or 5 years is I just got myself into a lot of debt. It was in excess of $15,000, and I was paying this off, and the interest rate was huge, and it was going to take me years to get ahead and to be able to do that, let alone to even look towards my future of maybe even buying my own place and having a sustainable future financially, because I had such a rough start. And I can remember years ago, my mum got this inheritance, and I can remember being at work one day, and she came with this check, which wrote off all my debt and gave me enough to give me a head start into getting to my own place. And it still makes me emotional when I think about it, because I had gotten myself into this debt through being distracted as a driver and through not handling my own finances. I dug myself this hole financially. And my mum came along and she actually rescued me. She bailed me out. She gave me what I didn't deserve, and she gave me an extended grace in the finances that she gave me. And I love this because this idea of grace is getting what we don't deserve. And there's a great passage in the scripture in Ephesians 2 verse 4 to 5. And it says, "But God, being rich in mercy, because of the great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved." What an amazing passage, and what an uplifting verse where it talks about this idea of us being dead by our own doing and by our own decisions. But this great love that God has for us ultimately saves us through Jesus because of grace, which was given to us. And that's just a little bit like what happened in my situation. I got myself into this debt, and my mum, with such great love for me, extended grace to me and actually bailed me out of my own situation, which I got myself into. And that's the gift of grace, getting what we don't deserve. And that's exactly what God does and did for us over and over again. I want to encourage you today, Lakeside community, wherever you're at and whatever you're doing, just to take a moment to stop and to receive that grace from God, to remind yourself that you can't work your way to God and you can't work your way out of our past. But in rest and in receiving grace, we can grow ourselves closer to our Father through Jesus. I want to encourage you, whatever situation you're facing, that maybe the story of my mum and maybe even the scripture is a great reminder that God did the work for us. And so we get to rest in that and receive from that. He's a God who wants to give to us. And when we truly grasp that, the great takeaway is we don't need to get even. We don't need to try and seek justice. We don't need to carry hurt. And yeah, things are going to happen to us, and maybe things are unfair sometimes. But I want to encourage you in grasping this grace we've been given. We don't need to worry about it. We don't need to carry it. It enables us and it frees us to love, to encourage others, and just to be like water off a duck's back. Whatever happens to you, knowing that God's taking care of it. God is for you and he loves you. And wherever you're at today, you can extend that to others because love speaks.